Have you ever felt the sting of solitude, that silent ache that creeps into your heart, whispering that something has been lost? The world tells us that being alone is a curse, that we must fill the empty spaces with noise, with people, with distractions. But what if this emptiness is not the void they claim it to be? What if, instead of loneliness, solitude is the key to something far deeper, a gateway to freedom, to peace, to a profound connection with our own soul? Let me share a secret with you, one that has taken years to unfold. The greatest suffering in life does not come from being alone. No, it comes from our desperate need for others to define us, to validate us, to tell us we are worthy. We live in constant pursuit of approval, clinging to fleeting connections, always running from the fear of being abandoned. But let me tell you, true peace does not come from the number of people who surround you. It emerges when you stop seeking approval from others and begin to cultivate the deepest, most important relationship of all, the one you have with yourself. And as the years pass, you may come to realize something extraordinary. Old age is not a time of loss. It is a time of liberation, a sacred unfolding. It is not the end of connections, but the beginning of a journey inward. A journey where the mind and heart are finally allowed to rest in their natural state, unburdened by the world's demands. This is not a rejection of companionship, but an embrace of solitude as a wise teacher, one that holds the key to all the peace and wisdom we've been seeking outside of ourselves. The shift in priorities. As we grow older, we experience a natural shift in our priorities. The things that once seemed important, the need for constant interaction, the desire to fit in, to be seen, begin to fade into the background. In youth, our sense of self is often defined by the people around us, the friends we collect, the validation we receive. We measure our worth by the relationships we build, by how many people acknowledge us, by how much we belong. But Buddhism teaches us that the self is impermanent. The identities we cling to are just illusions, creations of the ego that change over time. As the years pass, we start to see through this illusion. The relentless need for belonging, for external validation, slowly gives way to a deeper longing, a longing for peace. In the earlier stages of life, friendships often serve as a mirror to our own identity, reflecting back who we think we are. We collect these relationships as one collects trophies, believing that the more we have, the more complete we become. But as time unfolds, we begin to question this pattern. We begin to wonder, is all this external noise really necessary? What we come to realize in our later years is that true fulfillment doesn't come from how many people surround us. It comes from how deeply we can sit in stillness, how much peace we can cultivate within ourselves. The constant urgency to engage, to reach out, to be seen, it softens. In its place, a quiet contentment begins to rise. We no longer feel the need to prove ourselves, to maintain appearances, or to fill every silence with conversation. Instead, we start to savor the simple joys of solitude. The crisp morning air, the sound of birds gently calling from the trees, the slow unfolding of a flower, the feeling of a well-worn book in our hands. These are the simple moments that nourish our soul. This is not loneliness, it is liberation. A liberation that reconnects us with the deeper aspects of ourselves, a rediscovery of our true nature. The freedom of self-reliance. At the core of Buddhist philosophy is the idea of self-reliance. The understanding that true freedom and peace come from within, not from the people around us. The Buddha himself, in his quest for enlightenment, left behind his palace, his family, and his wealth. He embarked on a solitary journey, knowing that attachment breeds suffering. In solitude, he found the wisdom that he sought, not in the presence of others, but in the silence of his own mind. As we age, many of us realize that much of our lives have been spent trying to meet others' expectations, fitting into social molds, maintaining relationships out of obligation, seeking validation from the outside world. But as we step into our later years, we are finally granted permission to release these expectations. We no longer need to define ourselves by the relationships we maintain or the number of people who surround us. Instead, we turn inward, and we begin to cultivate a sense of wholeness and peace from within. At first, the idea of self-reliance can feel unsettling. After all, we've spent our entire lives in relationships, engaging in social interactions, seeking to belong, and fulfilling social roles. The thought of stepping back from this can feel unnatural. It may even seem like a rejection of the world, a cutting off from others. But over time, we begin to see that self-reliance isn't about severing ties or shutting ourselves off. It's about freedom, the freedom to engage with others when we choose, not out of obligation. It's the freedom to prioritize inner peace over external validation. It's the freedom to simply be in the moment, without the need for constant approval or acknowledgement. The quiet peace that comes with self-reliance is one of the greatest gifts we can receive in our later years. No longer bound by the constant tug of social obligations, we are free to engage with life on our own terms. This is true freedom, the freedom to simply be, without the need for others to complete us. The art of meaningful connection. In Buddhism, we are reminded that everything in life, including our relationships, is impermanent. The fleeting nature of life is not something to mourn but something to understand and embrace. Relationships, like all things, come and go. Some friendships fade away as time passes, while others transform into memories we hold dear, like treasures hidden within our hearts. In these memories, we find the essence of what those connections meant, not in their longevity but in their depth and significance. As we age, we begin to shift our perspective on what truly matters in relationships. The world often tells us that we should keep building a network of connections, always adding more names to our contact list, more people to our social circles. But with time, we come to realize that it is not the quantity of relationships that defines us. What matters is the quality, the depth, the richness of the connections we make. We begin to value a single, heartfelt conversation far more than a lifetime of shallow exchanges. It is not the number of people who surround us, but the ones who truly see us for who we are, those relationships that touch our souls, that nourish our spirit. In Buddhist philosophy, the practice of being fully present in the moment is central. The Zen practice of when drinking tea, drink tea reminds us to engage with everything in life with our full presence. Whether it's enjoying a cup of tea or sharing time with a loved one, the practice is the same. To be fully immersed in the experience, without distraction, without thinking of what comes next. This presence transforms ordinary moments into extraordinary experiences. And when it comes to relationships, it becomes even more profound. Rather than spreading ourselves thin, trying to maintain every connection, we learn to pour our energy into those relationships that truly nourish us. The relationships we cultivate in our later years should be authentic, not driven by obligation, but by genuine connection. Authenticity, rather than quantity, becomes the foundation of true friendship. In the end, it's not about how many friends we have, but the depth of the bond we share with those who truly resonate with our heart. True connection is like a garden that requires care, patience, and time. It is not about the number of flowers, but how deeply rooted the ones we cherish have become. Embracing solitude and reflection. Solitude, often misunderstood, is not something to be feared. In fact, it is a sanctuary, a sacred space where we can return to ourselves, to the quiet truth of our own existence. In Buddhist tradition, monks retreat into silence, not because they wish to escape the world, but because they wish to understand it more deeply. They seek insight and clarity in stillness. And this practice is just as relevant for us as we grow older. In a world that constantly demands our attention, solitude becomes a precious gift. A space for reflection. A moment to reconnect with our innermost selves. As we age, we find that there is less need to fill every moment with noise. The world is loud, and the voices outside often drown out the quiet whispers within. But in solitude, we finally have the chance to listen to those whispers. To reflect on the choices we've made, the paths we've walked, the lessons we've learned along the way. There is a profound beauty in sitting with ourselves, in allowing space for introspection and self-awareness. In those moments, we realize that we are whole. Even in our aloneness, we are enough, not because of anything outside of us, but because of who we are in our essence. The world may rush around us, but in the silence, we find peace. Silence becomes a canvas, and on it, we paint the story of our own lives, uninterrupted by the distractions of the external world. It's not an escape from life, but a deeper dive into it. It's in this stillness that we discover truths about ourselves that were once hidden beneath the surface. We realize that we don't need to prove anything to anyone. The only person we need to be honest with is ourselves. In the hustle and bustle of life, silence is rare. But it is in this silence that we can hear our true thoughts, free from the noise that constantly pulls at us. It's in the quiet moments, when we sit with ourselves, that we learn to truly know who we are. In solitude, we find not emptiness, but the fullness of our own being. This practice of solitude is not a rejection of the world, but a profound acceptance of it. As we move through life with grace, awareness, and peace, solitude in our later years is not loneliness. It is freedom. Freedom to explore the depths of our own soul, to find peace in the stillness, and to reconnect with the essence of who we are. In these moments, we don't need the world to validate us. We don't need external distractions to feel whole. We are complete, as we are, in the quiet of our own presence. And in this peaceful solitude, we find a sense of joy that is independent of the world around us. A joy that comes from within, that no one can take away. In the quiet, we find the profound truth that all along, we were never alone. The universe, the earth, the air, all are connected in ways we are only now beginning to understand. Solitude, in its purest form, is a return to the interconnectedness of all things. It is not an isolation, but a reunion with the universe, with ourselves, and with the eternal truth of existence. It is in solitude that we find the freedom to truly live, to embrace each moment with full presence, and to discover the beauty that lies within our own hearts. Family and community. As time continues its inexorable march, the role of friendships naturally ebbs and flows. Some relationships strengthen and deepen with age, while others fade, often dissolving in the distance of time. But as these friendships come and go, something remarkable happens. The importance of family and community takes on a new and profound significance. This shift is not about clinging to others for dependency, but rather about embracing the more substantial, sacred role we play as wisdom keepers, mentors, and guides for those who will follow us. In the quiet years of our lives, we begin to realize that we have something invaluable to offer: wisdom. Wisdom cultivated through a lifetime of experiences, joys, struggles, and lessons learned. Buddhism teaches that we are all interconnected, each of us a small thread in the vast, intricate web of life. Each action, each word, rippling outward in ways we cannot fully comprehend. While solitude and reflection are vital in nurturing our own well-being, there is an equal importance in our ability to give, to share, and to teach. As we grow older, we are presented with a unique opportunity: the chance to pass down the wisdom we've accumulated. We are no longer just students of life, we have become teachers. Whether formally or informally, guiding others with the lessons that only experience can provide. This is not about a performance or obligation, but a gift, the chance to offer support, to share stories, and to give back in ways that will last long after we are gone. Family, whether by blood or by choice, becomes a space not just for companionship, but for unconditional love, for deep-rooted connection. It is here that we are offered a chance to guide, to hold, and to nurture. A simple conversation with a grandchild becomes an opportunity to pass on not just information, but values, traditions, and the deeper lessons of life. The stories we share, the advice we give, and the simple moments spent together become sacred. Each moment is a treasure, for in them, we witness the continuity of life. We see that the impact we make on others, on the younger generations, on our families, and our communities ripples through time. In these quiet moments of connection, we find meaning and purpose in our roles as elders. It is not about what we accumulate, but what we leave behind. The lessons we impart, the love we offer, and the wisdom we share become the true legacy we pass on to the world. And in these quiet exchanges, we experience the profound realization that we are never truly alone. Through family and community, we are a part of something larger. A cycle of wisdom and love that transcends time and space. Letting go of social expectations. The world outside may tell us that we need more friends, more connections, more social validation. There is an incessant pressure to maintain a busy social calendar. To be seen, to be recognized, to prove that we are still vibrant and engaged. But Buddhism, in its infinite wisdom, teaches us a powerful truth. Suffering arises when we cling to societal expectations. The relentless pursuit of external approval, the constant striving to meet the world's standards, only serves to create internal conflict. As we age, this pressure begins to dissipate. We realize that the relationships we've built and the expectations others have placed on us do not define who we are. We begin to understand that true fulfillment lies not in meeting others' needs or demands, but in honoring ourselves and living authentically. The need to conform to the world's standards weakens, and in its place, we discover a new freedom. The freedom to live life on our own terms. In old age, we are granted the precious gift of freedom. Freedom from the expectations that once ruled our every decision. No longer do we have to chase the approval of others, or maintain connections that drain our energy. Instead, we are free to honor ourselves, to set boundaries, and to engage only in those relationships and activities that truly nourish our spirit. The joy of living authentically becomes the greatest gift we can give to ourselves. This process of letting go is not about withdrawing from the world or rejecting relationships. It is about discerning what truly matters. It is about creating space for the things that bring us peace, joy, and fulfillment. We learn to say no, not out of cruelty or detachment, but out of wisdom, the wisdom to know that not every invitation is one we must accept. Not every relationship is one we must maintain. In doing so, we create a life that is no longer dictated by the expectations of others, or the noise of the world. We begin to live in alignment with our deepest truths. And in this alignment, we find the peace that has always been within us, waiting to be discovered. The noise of the world fades, and in its place, there is stillness. A stillness that allows us to listen to our own hearts, to follow our own path, and to live in a way that is true to who we are. This is the ultimate freedom. And in that freedom, we find a joy that cannot be shaken. We no longer seek validation outside ourselves. Instead, we find a profound sense of contentment in simply being. In old age, the pressure to conform, to fit in, or to be busy with endless obligations dissolves. What remains is the serene satisfaction of knowing that we have lived authentically, on our own terms. And that, perhaps, is the greatest gift we can offer to ourselves and to the world. As we journey through the years, let us not dwell in sorrow for what has passed, nor desperately clutch at the fleeting moments that fade like whispers in the wind. Instead, let us turn our hearts to the present, to the fullness of our being, to the sacred gift of the now. In the stillness, in the quiet of our own company, we do not lose ourselves. In fact, it is here, in the depths of solitude, that we finally uncover the truest version of who we are. Every line on our face, every silver strand in our hair, is a mark of wisdom, of strength, of the beautiful stories we have lived. Aging is not something to fear or mourn, it is a sacred unfolding, a deepening of our soul. It is the time to shed the weight of the world's expectations, to let go of all that no longer serves us, and to discover the boundless freedom that resides within. So let us embrace this moment, knowing that it is enough, that we are enough, and that in this very space, peace, joy, and clarity are waiting for us. If these words have touched something deep inside, if you long for more wisdom, more peace, more truth, then come with me on this journey. Join Whisper of Age and allow these gentle reflections to guide you toward deeper understanding and greater serenity. The greatest lesson in life is simple yet profound. When we stop chasing, when we stop clinging to what's outside of us, we discover everything we need has always been within. It is in letting go that we truly begin to live. So, my dear friend, as you step forward into the days ahead, do so with courage, with grace, and with a heart full of love. The path before you is rich with possibility. Walk it with the knowledge that every step is a step toward deeper peace. A step toward embracing the beauty of who you are, exactly as you are. The best is yet to come. And it starts now.